Hey y'all, we're going to read chapter 4. Wednesday morning, Margaret's teacher came into our classroom right after the pledge to visit with my teacher. This is because the fourth graders are supposed to be responsible enough to be left alone for a few minutes. I don't think that is such a hot idea. I know Margaret, and I never leave her alone in my room. But I was glad that Margaret's teacher came in there because Margaret's teacher wears her hair swirled up like a tornado, and I think if a bobby pin ever came shooting out of it, it would look like lightning, and I like watching for that. There she is. I'm going to be the director of our talent show, Margaret's teacher said. Each morning we'll have a little trial run of a couple of acts. That way everything will run smoothly on the big night. My teacher made a face at Margaret's teacher. It meant they didn't believe that for a minute, but they had to say it anyway. Who would like to go first today? All the kids except me raised their hands, so my teacher just started with the first row. My act is called Cartwheel Extravaganza, said Maria. She went up to the front of the classroom and did a cartwheel into the chalkboard. We were all very surprised to learn that a chalkboard that big wouldn't flatten a kid when it fell off the wall. Are you all right? My teacher asked, lifting it off her. Oh, sure, said Marie. I always do that. Well, just in case, why don't you go visit the nurse? And we'll make sure there's no chalkboards on the stage Saturday night. And then he called on the next kid, whose name is Morris or Boris. I always forget. My act is called Cartwheel Whamorama, Morris Boris said, and he jumped up out of his seat. There's Maria. Wait, no, my teacher cried, throwing his arms around the fish tank, but it was too late. Morris Boris cartwheeled to the front of the room, where he didn't knock over the fish tank, thank goodness, only the hamster cage, and Zippy and Bump looked pretty surprised to be out of on the floor like that, and they let Morris Boris scoop them right up. Thank you, Norris, my teacher said. Are you all right? Oh, I wrote a big N on my arm so I wouldn't forget. We'll make sure there are no hamster cages on the stage either, and just to be on the safe side, why don't you go visit the nurse too? I don't know why my teacher bothered with sending Maria and Norris to the nurse. All she ever does when you go in there is, when you tell her how sick you are, is roll her eyes. She always looks bored, as if she's just killing time until a really good disease hits the school. Maria and Norris could have had lumps the size of toasters, and all our nurse would do is give them a frozen sponge. Now, my teacher was saying, does anyone have an act that isn't cartwheeling? And there was Norris when he crashed into the hamster cage. Half the kids put their hands down. My teacher called on a boy named Joe and asked him what his was. Secretly, I was hoping it was cartwheeling anyway. Joe's really short, and he has really short everything. Really short name, really short hair, really short ears. He has really short arms and legs, too. So, if he did a cartwheel, I bet it would look like a starfish rolling across the floor, and I'd like to see that. But nope. Joe took a harmonica from his pocket. I'm going to play this, and my dog Buddy is going to sing. Your dog? My teacher asked. Your dog sings? Joe went over to the open window and whistled. His big brown dog, who waits all day on the playground for him, ran over. He jumped up and put his paws on the window ledge, and then Joe blew into his harmonica. Buddy threw back his big brown dog head, closed his eyes, and howled. See, said Joe, Buddy loves my harmonica playing. Well, I don't know, my teacher started. And there's that picture. Then Margaret's teacher came over and wrote something in her notebook and showed it to my teacher. I guess it was, at least it's not cartwheels, because then my teacher said, okay, 2 rules. First, Buddy has to be on a leash. And second, if he has an accident on the stage, you have to clean it up. Joe said, okay. Then my teacher said, that's enough for one day. Time for social studies, which was lucky because I was the next person in the row. But I couldn't stop thinking about not having an act to do. My teacher had to say 6. Clementine, you need to pay attention, which is a lot even for me. By the time the bus came, I was so tired from worrying that my neck felt too weak to hold up my head. So I flopped over in the seat. What's the matter? Margaret asked me. Are you sick? I might be, I said. Well, I hope you're not too sick to come to the talent show Saturday night. You'd miss my act, which would be a shame because you could really use it. I perked up a little. What do you mean? What's your act? The name of it is Dressing Fashionably, Margaret said. That's not an act. It is too. Something I'm very talented at. And certain people are not. Margaret pointed her eyes at me when she said the certain people part. What about your other talents? What about gymnastics and singing and playing the accordion? Oh, lots of kids can do those things. Dressing fashionably is a very special talent. And besides, my act will be helpful to certain people. She arrow-eyed me at the certain people part again, but I didn't care because I thought of something. Can I have one of your extra talents then? You know, one you're not going to use? Margaret squinted at me. Can you show me how to do one as long as you're not going to perform it? Margaret thought for a minute, and then she said, well, okay, I guess we can try. Come on over tomorrow after school. And that's the end of that chapter.